This episode is brought to you by Lucky Goat Coffee Company.
Welcome to News and Brews with the Times, where we spill the tea on what's happening in Hall County, Georgia. It's September 1st, 2025. In today's episode, we're changing things up a bit because we've got some serious tea. We're talking about the U.S. Department of Justice inquiry into local physicians with reporter Ben Anderson. Good morning, I'm Shannon Casas.
And I'm Stacey Smith. Don't miss the other top 3 headlines we'll tell you about at the end of the show. For now, grab your favorite brew and take a sip as we guide you through what's been happening in Hall County. Don't forget, you can also find all of these stories we talk about this week at the link in our show notes and on GainesvilleTimes.com.
Ben, you published several stories last week, each breaking news about this DOJ inquiry. Can you give our listeners a high-level overview of what we're talking about?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, the DOJ is investigating whether physicians at Longstreet, namely Dr. Betsy Grunch, received kickbacks from a medical company called Spinology. It's a company that makes spine implants.
Okay, and tell us how all of this got started. How did we get the story?
It all started with a strange email a little more than a week ago. The email said, "Hello, I'm Dr. Betsy Grunch, neurosurgeon, social media influencer, and advocate for patients and women in medicine. I've been suspended from NGHS medical staff, not by choice nor because my dog is sick. Call me and ask me why."
Well, that's bizarre, but what would her dog being sick have to do with her being suspended anyways?
Well, if you go on her social media, you can see that her dog has been sick and she's been taking her dog Pancake to the vet. And so I'm sure that that's what that's referring to.
She is huge on social media. I mean, we're talking millions of followers, correct?
Yeah, she has more than 1 million followers on Instagram and Facebook and about 2.5 million on TikTok.
Wow, so she's a big deal, world-renowned, and you got to speak with her? How did that go?
Yeah, so I eventually got her cell number and was calling her under the impression that she knew I was calling and knew why I was calling. But it turned out that she didn't know why I was calling, and when I asked her directly if she's been suspended, she declined to comment and directed me to her attorney. So shortly after I hung up with Betsy, her attorney called me and basically said that someone was impersonating his client and that the information they provided us was privileged, and he also declined to comment when I asked him if Betsy had been suspended.
So at this point, you don't have a story. Nothing has been confirmed.
Right, we just got a tip and we're following up on it.
At what point did we find out about the DOJ?
Yeah, so about a day later, I talked to a spokesman at NGHS, and he told me that NGHS had paused its much anticipated acquisition of Longstreet Clinic because it had received a subpoena from the DOJ basically requesting documentation, quote, related to certain Longstreet physicians, unquote.
But we didn't know which physicians or why they were investigating.
Right. NGHS declined to say, and so did Longstreet when we reached out to them. In fact, Longstreet released a statement insisting that the clinic itself was not under investigation, but when I asked them whether any of its physicians were, they declined to say.
This episode of News and Brews is fueled by Lucky Goat Coffee Company, Hall County's favorite way to wake up your luck. Start your morning with bold flavor and small batch brews that kickstart your day the right way. Find them in Flowery Branch or at luckygoatcoffee.com.
At that point, we have a story. We've spoken with someone at the health system. They've confirmed that the DOJ is investigating. We don't have Dr. Grunch's name included, but we published a story with that information.
Yes.
So from the time you received that first email to the time we got the story out, how long was that?
It was about a day.
And about how many calls did that require before you got enough for this?
It's all a blur. I couldn't even begin to estimate. It's the past 5 days have been just one big blur.
So after talking to multiple sources, putting out the story about the investigation to begin with, we still had Dr. Grunch's name in the background. How did we get her confirmed? Like how did that come about? That she was one of the physicians being investigated?
Yeah, so we received an internal memo that had been sent to an unknown number of staff at NGHS. It was marked highly confidential and sent by NGHS's legal department, and it basically told the staff that NGHS had received a subpoena and that the DOJ was investigating Dr. Grunch and or others.
What kind of details did it list that she was being investigated for?
Yeah, so it actually quoted from the DOJ's subpoena, and that subpoena said that she was being investigated for allegedly taking kickbacks from this spinal implant company, Spinology. So we basically confirmed that Dr. Grunch was being investigated by the DOJ, and so I called her, and she declined to comment and deferred me to her attorney, and so I called him, and he basically said that his client didn't do anything wrong, and he confirmed that she has done consulting for this spine implant company. And we later confirmed through a federal database that she's received about $177,000 from this company. Again, her attorney has emphasized that there's nothing illegal about that necessarily, that this is common in the medical industry, consulting and education and all that kind of stuff.
So all of this is just an investigation at this point. No charges have been filed.
Yeah, it's important to note that this subpoena, also known as a civil investigative demand, is not evidence of guilt. A case hasn't been opened yet or filed. This is just kind of an investigation that's been opened.
So why report that if charges haven't been filed yet?
Right. So we spoke with some experts and we asked them, like, how big a deal is something like a CID or a subpoena from the DOJ? Because they told us that often these kinds of things are triggered by a whistleblower. And so the question is, well, can anyone make a complaint and the DOJ will investigate no matter how credible? And these experts told us that the DOJ just doesn't investigate anything, that they try to confirm whether these allegations are credible, and then they will file a CID.
So it's definitely not to the point of charges yet, but it's also not just a random tip.
No, it sounds serious.
Right.
So we called her the first time asking about a suspension. Now we've got additional information. We're calling again about the DOJ investigation and then talking with her and then talking with her attorney. And then we publish a story because we have confirmed at this point that the DOJ is investigating. Her specifically. Right.
There are still a lot of unanswered questions, but we do know that the DOJ is investigating her and possibly others. And we're going to continue to follow this story.
So we got a lot of heat for reporting this story.
Ben, how do you respond?
Look, guys, this is our job. We get information, we report it. You know, we leave it up to you guys to decide what you want to do with that information, how you want to react. You are well within your right to criticize us and support Betsy Grunch, but we believe that you deserve to have this information. At the end of the day, a prominent and renowned Gainesville neurosurgeon is being investigated by the DOJ, and we think that you deserve to know that.
So I'll read from our values statement, which is available on our website. We'll put a link in the show notes as well, and it's actually printed in our print edition every time that comes out, twice a week. As professional journalists, their role is to report as completely and impartially as possible verifiable facts so readers can, based on their own knowledge and experience, determine what they believe to be the truth. That is often an ongoing pursuit as journalists work to uncover stories and follow those stories wherever they lead, regardless of preconceived ideas. The public has a right to know, and the Times is dedicated to that principle and the, quote, continued enlightenment and freedom of the people of North Georgia, end quote, as engraved outside our building.
We also got some very direct comments towards us about our processes and how we handle the situation. And we just thought it might be a little fun for you guys to hear some of those.
Do better, Gainesville Times. If you don't have anything but ambulance chasing and speculations, be professional and wait until there's an actual resolution to write about.
This whole article cited no evidence whatsoever and was based off of rumor and misinformation. This newspaper has reduced itself to a gossip rag.
This is just asinine. Leave this woman alone. This article should never have been written. Shame on you, Gainesville Times. Such lies, it's sickening.
The Times, once again, thrives on clickbait and not fully reporting the story.
A new Kroger is coming to Hall County. Groundbreaking will begin this week on Mundy Mill in Oakwood.
A $1.2 billion data center was proposed in Southeast Hall County. That goes before the Planning Commission tomorrow, September 2nd. That group would then recommend it for approval or denial by the Hall County Board of Commissioners, which has the final vote.
Interactive Neighborhood for Kids, a local children's museum, better known as INC, has reopened at its new location in Oakwood.
Did you like the format of this episode? Let us know. Send an email to podcastadmin@GainesvilleTimes.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. The best way to support us is by leaving a quick rating or review us wherever you listen to your podcast. It makes a big difference.
To support the kind of journalism you heard on today's podcast, you can subscribe to The Times. There's a link in our show notes for that, as well as all the stories you heard about on the podcast today. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to share News and Brews with a friend. We'll be back next week.